Hey everybody, welcome into the Beehive. I'm your host, TheBee at LLC, and this is where we stack precious metals like it's pollen and nectar. Our pollen is silver and our nectar is gold. Preserving our wealth is honey of old, and like ancient metals, we hold our own. Today we are going to be talking with Aaron Berk and discussing ancient coins and looking at a few as well. Let me bring Aaron up. Aaron, welcome in.
What's up, brother?
Oh, not too awful much. Excited to talk to you a little bit about some ancient coins.
Sure.
And let's see here. Where do I want to start? I guess I wouldn't mind just starting with a little video clip showing finding some ancient coins. And then I'll ask you about the process from here on out.
Inside one of the grids, the archaeologists are in for a big surprise. There are hundreds of ancient coins scattered across the riverbed. Among them, gold coins.
Ouais.
Et tout autour, il y a toutes ces petites monnaies en bronze. Bon, mais dites-donc, les gars.
Il faut pas gratter pour les trouver. Hein. Non, hein. Tu passes la main comme ça, tu dégages une première couche de quelques centimètres de vase et de sable. Et au milieu de gravats, de gravier, là, il y a les pièces. Hein. Tout regroupé.
D'habitude, dans nos carrés, sur la rive d'en face, on a 4, 5 monnaies.
So they go down, and this is over in Rome. They found a Roman shipwreck there, and they find these ancient coins, and they had that nice little. I don't know if you could see what that gold coin was, but I don't know, an Antoninus or one of those. I'm not sure. I don't know those very well, but so they probably had to get a permit, I suppose, to go down there and do that archaeological work. So then is that the type of place where will those coins possibly end up on the market, you think, or
Nope.
no? Okay. Why not?
Public. It's public knowledge that they were found recently.
Okay.
So, I mean, unless you can, my guy who was doing I guess I have to know a little bit more context, like who was actually running that show.
Okay.
Who was the people did they have a license? If they have a license, that means they're probably associated with a museum or they're archaeologists of some sort. And if they are, then they are never going to go to the open market unless they're criminals, because it's illegal to ship out of Italy.
Oh, okay.
So now people trade coins in Italy, and you can buy some coins in Italy. You just can't take them out.
Oh.
In fact, I was just talking to one of my clients who wanted to bid in a sale in India, and on some Indian coins. And I talked to the person in Dubai, and they basically said, "Oh yeah, we can't ship out of India because they're over 100 years old." So obviously, with Indian related coins, they're not allowing them to leave the country if they're over 100 years old. So a lot of source countries are that way, with their own heritage. Now, I know that people will ship out Roman gold out of India, and that's okay because they're not indigenous to the region. So
really,
when it comes to India, they're more protective of their own history than they are of another culture's history.
Okay.
They find a lot of Roman gold in the rivers there because of the Silk Road. So in ancient times, the Romans were trading for silk and spices in India, And the Indians, who love gold even today, the same as they loved it then, would keep the gold, and a lot of them would end up throwing them into the river basins, or they would, end up in jewelry there. And so if you see Roman gold that's all beaten up and has holes in it and it's all blunted, that's usually because it came out of India.
Huh. Okay.
What's up, Space Miner?
Interesting. So would you be like, I know, you're telling me, a lot of people look for good pedigrees, and it adds quite a bit of value to the coin, and I know you've also told me that they pass these coins on. That back in ancient times, the kings were collectors themselves, or the rich and wealthy, and would collect coins, and so are there pedigrees that reach back quite a ways? Like how far back do some of these pedigrees go?
I'm seeing back to the 1800s.
Okay.
At least. I mean, there's probably some that go into the 1700s, but not very often. You got to remember they didn't, have a lot of printed auction catalogs going back that far.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's coins, like for instance, Abraham Lincoln, or not Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson collected ancient coins and coins in general. So you can get an ex Thomas Jefferson pedigree.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Sure.
I see. So some of them probably were handed down from way back when. It just wasn't that the pedigrees didn't really.
Yeah, my guess is that some of the kings of England and other aristocrat like that, maybe that material may have gone directly to the museums in those countries, is my guess. They don't necessarily end up on the open market in the same way.
Sure.
But and then it just, things go through lots of hands. So, I mean, yeah, one of the big projects that the coin business is going to go under as far as ancients goes is going to be with AI identifying pedigrees of material going forward in old catalogs as the catalogs from the past get scanned. And we'll be able to piece together more and more pedigrees over time. But that's a big business right now. Is in the U.S. business, it's about finding coins that in slabs that you can upgrade, right? That's because it's all quality based. In the ancient market, it's about identifying old pedigrees, because pedigrees don't matter in U.S. coins because there's no real laws against U.S. coins, except for like the 33 gold eagle, which there's only one that can be sold. But in ancient coins, that's why I've always been, less interested in the grading of what NGC states on coins over the actual rarity of the coin, because the rarity of the coin and the supply and demand is going to be a lot more important sometimes than the quality of the coin.
Sure.
So, quality has to do with U.S. coins, because in such a monotonous system where you have a lot of the coins that look the same, the only way you can really identify one over the other is obviously the date and the high quality of it. So it becomes very hypersensitive on the grade and less on other factors.
Sure.
Since that's not the case. Grade is just one aspect of it. There's so many other parts that are super important.
Right. That makes sense.
So Space Miner asks, is there a greater or lesser value determined based on the amount of times a coin has changed hands? So I would say in modern times, the less amount of ownership is probably better, because if I see a coin has been flipping once a year or once every 2 years, it means that the coin was nice enough to own for a short time to fill a hole, but not long enough to be able to
keep and hold on to and pass down. And
yeah, that's right. And the other thing is when I see one dealer have a coin, then another dealer have a coin, like auction houses within the same year sometimes, then I know that it was bought probably by that company and then sold on through their auction. And it was a movement of wholesaling that was going around, and not retail sales. Or it could be that the coin really didn't sell out of the auction, or wasn't paid for out of the auction, or there's a problem with it in some cases, and so it's just flipping around.
yeah,
So I would say being offered less is probably better. I think now if more, meaning that the pedigrees go back really far. So if I have let's say it's X Hunt specimen, it's X Neville from 1923, and it's X something from an earlier date, that's a much different type of pedigree. Those are famous collectors or collections that owned it, and they were not necessarily back to back, they were spread out. So that's a different scenario that can actually add value. But I think there's a different way of looking at it back in the day as opposed to modernly speaking.
Okay, interesting. So firstly, I've read through the front of the 100 greatest ancient coins from you and your dad. An amazing book. You guys should definitely pick this up. I'll put the link in the description of this video. And I know we probably
if anybody orders one from us, my dad signs them all. He'll sign it for you. So
awesome. And I actually want to, with my next order from you, remind me, or if you see a coin coming my way, I want to get the 3rd edition in that next shipment. So I'll pay for it and everything. But so I wanted to talk a little bit about the grading here. And so let's just go ahead and get into it. So this book, guys, 100 Greatest Ancient Coins, has awesome information just in the first few pages, going over the basics of ancient coin collecting, and great information in here. And here's kind of a little scale that you guys put together of grading ancient coins. And so you have, let's see, 8 different grades here. And is that kind of your standard then? That's what you those are your basic grades that you go by?
Yeah, that's what we use. Yeah.
Okay. And then we were talking also, NGC kind of has a whole different grading scale themselves that they use.
True. Hold on one second. Sorry. I got to grab something really quick.
Sure.
Hey, there was a package that came down for a Tony Abram, a priority mail, that somebody brought down. Tell him to bring it back, because the guy said he had the wrong address on there. Tony Abram. Do I need to call him on his cell? Okay, I will call him right now. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys.
No, that's all right. Do what you got to do.
Hey, that package to Tony Abram, that priority mail. I haven't done it yet. Okay, I need that to come back. The guy had the wrong address on his account.
Okay, Tony Abram?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure I don't drop that one.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. No worries. So just looking into the ancient grading, and you have these basic grades here, the Fleur de coin. So that's, like you say, brand new dies.
It's perfect.
no issues after it's been issued, no scratches and whatnot. Then you jump down to uncirculated. So uncirculated just means that it hasn't been circulated. Obviously, that maybe it's not quite in the die isn't quite as great a state, so you wouldn't give it the floor decoin or whatever. Then about uncirculated, so just one more.
Well, really, you have FDC, then you have mint state, then you have, which is kind of uncirculated. Then you have, and they're, my dad makes it basic in here, but really there's some nuances to it because you could have like, sometimes people use near mint state, which is very similar to EF plus. So, it kind of gets, there's different levels of it, and I think that's where NGC tries to simplify it by adding in the surface and strike ratios as well, because they may call something that they want to call mint state, but so they'll call it XF star 5545 because they want to call it mint state, but they're right on the edge, and so they give it a star for an XF. So it's kind of screwy. That's why I always, grading is kind of like, looking at the opposite sex, right? So we look at the opposite sex and we say, oh, they're good looking for this or this reason. They're I'm attracted to them for this and that reason. They're a looker or whatever the case might be. And there's certain attributes about them that make them beautiful, right?
Right.
But it's really an opinion. And, the state of preservation, obviously that's really important. But you can also get a weak dye because it's been struck so many times and then on fresh dyes. And so you could really say that it's a mint state coin, but because of the wear on the dye, it doesn't have the same kind of quality in the strike anymore.
Yes.
And so, and you get that in ancients, you get that on US as well, but not as much, right? And so in ancient coins, they literally run out of the dye. The dyes, they strike them until they break apart. And so you'll actually have dye flaws in the coin that are from the dye. So like if the dye cracks, and they strike 500 coins, you're going to have that same dye flaw on every coin it strikes. And that's still a mint state coin.
Right.
Possibly, but that's from the dye and the strike. It has nothing to do with the preservation of the coin itself. That had to do with when it was being struck. So I always like to say, look at the coin and decide for yourself what grade you think it is. Go off of what the dealer says it is. There's some dealers that overgrade coins. There's some dealers that undergrade coins. There's some dealers that are right on target. So everybody has their own way of grading. And so that's why I've always said it makes no point to grade, to buy on grade alone. There's so many more factors that go into it. And you're buying an NGC slab coin based on one person's opinion. And after they've looked at 500 coins that day.
Right.
And I'm not saying they make mistakes, but they can make a mistake. And so if they make a mistake, I know they make mistakes in US coins, like all grading companies do.
Right.
So that's why when we go to view US coins, our US expert, Mike Prince, he'll go to view coins for a client for an auction, and he'll cancel half of the bids because the coin in the holder is not the actual grade of the coin. It's less. And so we always grade the coin, not the plastic.
Yeah.
And so if they can't get it right in US coins where it's so tightly, looked at,
yeah,
how are you going to get one company with one opinion and you're going to pay that amount of money because they graded a coin a certain way? To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so, and now, like when clients get a star on a coin, they don't want to crack it out, and I don't blame them. Why would you crack it out? It's got so much value because you've got people who pay just for that star an insane amount of money. And if you crack that out and resubmit it, you will not get that star again. They will not give it to you. And so even though nothing's been done to the coin, has been tampered with, NGC would say, well, it could have been tampered with, and so we get a chance to regrade it. Well, the fact of the matter is they don't like the coins cracked out in the first place, and so they're going to penalize you that coin was cracked out.
Right.
They won't give you that same grade back again. So if you paid star designation money the first time and then cracked it out and then go to sell it again, you're not going to get the same amount of money again. And that's not the way ancient coins were meant to be sold. They were sold because of the historical value, the supply and demand, the artistic merit of the die cutter, the quality of the metal, all of that, which, some of that falls into grade, but there's so many more factors. Like you can get a usurper coin, which a usurper means they were never officially made emperor by the Senate. They just took over an area with a military.
Yeah.
They started striking coins under their name, but they were never seen by Rome as a official emperor, and so they're called usurpers. And most of those coins, because they're not officially done, they were struck poorly, and so a lot of them tend to be of poor fabric, meaning the silver wasn't really well refined. They're really rough surfaces. They come shitty every single time, and it's really hard to get one that's really nice. And so it might be that a VF of a specific usurper may only come in VF condition and never ever come in state.
Right.
And so you might say, well, in that situation, a VF slabbed usurper coin is the highest grade. Let's say you got one that was EF. That's the highest grade. But, people who are so conscious about grade might say, oh, well, they downgraded the surface. Well, yeah, they have to, because all those coins.
All of them, right. Yeah.
And so it's very misleading if you're just buying for grade alone, not knowing the series and how they always come, right? So if I saw a specific usurper coin that had mirror finishes, I would be very skeptical that coin was real. It just doesn't come that way. They just don't. They never do. And so that's why ancient coins is so much more than just grading. So the usurper coins are cool. The problem is that they're rare, and so they tend to go for a lot of money. So depending on who you're trying to get, a lot of people are collecting every Roman emperor. They want the usurpers too, because they feel like it helps complete them. But there's some usurpers that go for $100,000. There's some usurpers that only go for $2,000. So it just depends on who it is and how rare it is. So anyway.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting to me, hearing you talk about this, and you were saying that in Europe, the where these coins originated from for, thousands of years, basically, they have traded amongst themselves without being slabbed. So they're very much expert in coinage themselves. And then he comes over here to the U.S. and just whoever happened to be first in line in the slabbing area started their own designations, and that got other people maybe interested in the ancient coins that wouldn't have been in the first place, and that just becomes a money-making scheme. I mean,
it's completely. I mean, somebody did kind of an evaluation of all the companies out there, and as far as ancients go, and NGC is basically printing money, because they don't have any skin in the game, meaning they don't have to give a refund on anything they screw up if they happen to screw up. I mean, we're all human, right? Everybody screws up at one point or another. They're very good at what they do, but they can mess up just like any one of the rest of us. And the reason why they don't give a guarantee on authenticity is they know, hey, every company out there that sells ancient coins mostly have a lifetime guarantee. So we don't need to do it. We'll piggyback off of them. And if we mess up, they have the dealer loses.
Yeah.
And so that's the debate right now. And so, but they don't want to lose money. And so they stopped giving the guarantee on ancient coins. They supposedly do it on grade, but I don't know how you can guarantee a grade when it's an opinion.
Right.
So unless you made a huge mistake, let's say the coin was crystallized and was broken and they didn't catch it, that'd be one thing, but they may just say, well, that happened after the case. Who knows? So, but yeah, they don't have any skin in the game, and they basically, on any high value coin, they charge 2% of the market value of the coin. So I once looked at a coin for a client. It was over $1 million, and we were going to have to pay $50,000 in slabbing fees to get it slabbed by NGC. And my client said, forget it, I'm not doing it. Wow. And we tried to tell NGC, like, well, you should really make a good discount because it was the gold Idmar with the hole. And and we said, you guys really should give us a deal because it's good advertisement for NGC. And they had no interest. So and so my client said, forget it.
Yeah.
So, and NGC charges, I did an evaluation, I did a podcast on this, and NGC Ancients charges the most money for their service, more than US coins, currency, world coins. It's the most expensive one, and it's the only one that they don't give a guarantee on. So I think US coins is only like, they charge on high end, it's 1.5%. So, I mean, it's so much more expensive than Ancients, and it's the only one they don't give a guarantee. So they have no real competition either. So,
well, that's what I find interesting, and so, the knowledge over in Europe on these coins, just went from dealer to dealer or customer to customer, however, just even trade like that. But now that it's come over here to the US and they've been slabbing them, and the way they made just categories of slabs so that you need to have basically no knowledge, like you're saying, if it gets a star or if it gets a 5/5, and so now you have all these newbies that don't know anything about ancient coins buying the plastic or the grades and not knowing anything about the coin and paying, like you say, way over price just for that number or that grade, when someone with knowledge wouldn't pay a very high value at all for that, because they understand that, well, yeah, that might be a mint state coin, but it's a bad die or ugly art, or there's better coins here or there. But what else is funny about that is, you start out with just the NGC, but then not like with American coins, look how many people crack out their coins and try to resubmit it, or they have stickers on the slabs now. And now CAC went from just doing stickers to now they're going to be a grading company too. And
well, you know why that is because John Albanese, who owns CAC, he realized, and a lot of the higher end guys, they all John Albanese, who owns CAC, he started NGC or PCGS, one of the services. And so all these guys are actually, they started these services back in the 80s, and when they were pretty well respected. And both PCGS and NGC were both bought out by venture capitalist companies. And what happened with venture capitalist companies is they usually try to maximize sales so that they can build it up so they can sell it. And so they started many, I'm not a US expert, but many people in the US market felt like the grading services started to lessen. I mean, how do you generate money? You start to lessen your grading on specific areas so that people start cracking them out and resubmitting them. And you get a whole slew of new, old generation holders that then get cracked out, resubmitted, that they can charge fees on. And people felt like the services were overgrading the coins. And that, going back to when I said Mike goes and he'll cancel all these bids because people are getting, some feel, and I don't know if it's true or not, but some people feel certain auction houses get better grades because they submit so much. And if there's gray area on a coin, that the difference in one grade or other could be $50,000, could be $10,000. And so maybe they might get a better grade than the individual who's submitting it, because it's a cash grab, right? So if the auction houses get a great grade, they get more money for the coin. That means that that advertised grade means more people will submit those coins to hope to get that grade. So it just keeps on building up, right? And so so CAC started to make it conservative, to try to go back to conservatism with the grades and more true grade, and because they didn't like the way that the grading companies were doing it. So and they stole away, CAC did, a lot of the top graders from PCGS and maybe NGC, I'm not sure. And so now they don't have as many good graders, and it's tough being a grader, from what I understand. I mean, those guys, they can grade anywhere from 500 to 1,000 coins a day, if they're really good. And can you imagine doing that day in and day out?
Right.
Never. It's like the mail; it never stops, right? I could imagine I would start going cross-eyed after a while, right?
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of people are making a ton of money or losing money based on what those grades say.
Well, that's kind of what I realize is that, I mean, it really is just kind of a money-making scheme, and over time, like you say, that they're going to grade more and more coins and realize, oh, that first coin I graded actually shouldn't have been that good. And then you start getting people cracking them out. And what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up back at the basic market like you started with, except you got a whole bunch of people that way overpaid for their product in the first place, and before you end up back with people who have the knowledge trading like they were already doing in Europe. And so it's got to frustrate the Europeans, see that money-making scheme take over, even though it's kind of just a scheme. It's not really necessarily, I don't know if I should call it a scheme, but it's, whereas it would just be better if the people learn the coins themselves and got into, ancient.
Well, slabbing was created so that people who had no numismatic knowledge could buy and sell coins.
Yeah.
That's why it was started. And in US it works, and that's fine. But again, my point is it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And so if they can't get it right in US coins, how do they get it right in ancient coins?
Right.
It's very difficult. As far as Texas Stacker, you're right. Marketing is always a huge thing when you're selling coins. So yeah, saying it was the Rick Springfield collection, yeah, that makes a big difference, right? If it was owned by a famous person, sure, that makes a big difference. Honestly, the more of a story you can tell, the better off you are to be able to sell the coin.
Right.
So absolutely. In the end, we buy these things because we love the history, but we also love the hands that they've gone through as well. Yeah. And so, there are famous numismatists in ancients. There's famous and collectors, and there's famous numismatists and collectors in U.S. coins and world coins or whatever. And so to say, oh, well, that was an Elias coin, or in U.S., somebody who's really famous and well-known, that makes a big difference. That means if the coin was good enough for them to put in their collection, then it's for sure good enough to put in your collection.
Right.
So yeah, that's marketing. So that's just good marketing. And so completely makes sense. I mean, pretty logical. So I just can't say that for certain that every ancient coin was owned by a king or a queen.
Right, of course, sure, yeah.
I mean, it might have been a queen, but it was from California. So it's
okay, well, I want to jump over to your website, but I'm going to run through these quick just to get an overview. So we got down to about uncirculated, so that's just some of the high points are starting to get a bit of wear. Then extremely fine, which is you're getting some of those main definition wear away, but it's still looking pretty overall good. And he's got descriptions in the book here that go with each of these labels, so pick them up. But then we go to very fine, and then fine, and then very good, and good. So the very good, like you say here for the example, very good. This actually means not very good at all. Very few details survive, and part of the design outline is gone. So,
there can also be coins that are just the planchet is all that's left. Now I've been talking to somebody because somebody was mentioning to me about having coins tested, having the metal tested for age. And the only problem with that is that sometimes fakers will take sesterce, large bronze coins that are completely worn and there's nothing left on them, and they will reheat up the metal and restrike them with modern dyes, and then sell it as an original ancient coin. And so you can generally should be able to tell from the style and stuff. But if you were to do a metal test, that bronze is ancient. And so the metal test doesn't make any sense
It
anymore.
doesn't necessarily mean anything. Yeah, I see. Sure.
So, and the ancients did that too. That's why we get coins that are overstruck, right? So somebody mentioned about the usurpers and why they're rare. Well, one, they didn't mint a lot of coins, and two, yeah, they may have gotten melted down after they were destroyed or taken out. But any coins that were buried, those obviously weren't touched and they weren't in circulation. It was just they were just hidden from the world until they were found 2,000 years later.
Do you think is there more ancient coins on the market that are pulled from hoards or more passed down through time, do you suppose?
Hoards.
Yeah.
If you want to know if there's a new hoard on the market, if you are religiously looking at ancient coin auctions and you keep seeing somewhat scarce coins coming up 2-3 at a time in every auction, with no pedigree, you know that there's a new hoard.
Sure. Makes sense. Yep. Mr. and Mrs. West Texas Stacker asks, would the location the coin was found make it more valuable? Sometimes, I suppose.
Not really.
No?
I mean, because everything that comes out of the ground is supposed to stay in the source country, we really don't know where the stuff is found anyway. And if you did know, then it might have been smuggled recently, and you have knowledge of that. It's not something you would publicly state anyway, and unless you pulled it out of the ground yourself, you wouldn't really know. So and because ancient coins traveled, it's really difficult to know where they were found, and if it was found if a Roman coin is found in Britain, I don't lose my shit, because it was found in Britain, as opposed to being found in Spain or Italy or wherever. It's just, I just look at the ancient coin and say, oh, well, this is cool for this or that. The only one that might be cool is that if they found an Eid Mar issued by Brutus in England,
Right.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, or like a famous location, some temple or something like that, maybe, right?
Right. Well, that would mean that somebody probably found it in Greece or Turkey and then brought it back to England and then buried it, or whatever the case might be. So
I just wanted to go through a few of your coins here and kind of talk grading as we go. This attic, now this is an old, would you call this old style Athenian tetradrachm?
Well, it's an archaic.
Archaic. Okay.
Archaic. So archaic means it's the beginning of the series of that coinage. It's the very beginning. So it's 5th century, usually, very early 6th or 5th century. It's the beginning of that series of coinage.
Okay. This is probably the nicest archaic Athenian owl I've seen personally, up for bid anyway, up for auction. And you have it at extra fine.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get very many in mint state or almost uncirculated? Like what's
generally they come in poor condition. Generally, again, this is whenever it's kind of like a usurper again. They didn't have great die cutters at the time yet. They were just starting the development. They were trying to figure their way to see how they wanted what the die was supposed to look like, the art was supposed to look like. And so they were usually poorly made. A lot of the early archaic Athens were used in war production. So in time of war, they usually produce things very quickly and sloppily. And so it's usually when you get to where they're issuing the coins just for trade, that's when you usually get much higher quality dies and more mint state coins.
Yeah, I wanted to show this example right here, and then like you were saying, Aaron, you have an example right below that of, I believe it's still an archaic. Is this archaic as well here?
It is.
And
it's a little bit later than the other one, but it's probably about the same. But you can see how poorly it's made. That's really how they look. A lot of them are test cut sometimes because they didn't really know them to be money yet. So they test cut them when they moved from region to region because they weren't sure they were silver all the way through. And they were all mostly made for the Persian War, so they were, sloppily made. So,
and I like what you wrote right here that while this coin is a somewhat early Persian War issue, it is a later issue than the previous lot. The flan is complete and all parts of the type are included, although the quality demonstrates a rushed issue and the use of a worn reverse die. So probably in the heat of battle and wanting to keep putting out the coins, right, you end up with this type of, really rough looking,
Well, you got to remember, it wasn't about the image. It was about the weight of the silver.
Right.
The people who received this don't care what the coin looked like necessarily. They just wanted the silver.
Right. And I mean, obviously the mint and whatnot, the die artist probably wanted it to look really well, but like you say, the people that are receiving it don't care how good the art is. They care about the weight value there, right? Yeah.
Correct.
So, but I thought that was really cool. A great example of, what get in the heat of a battle and a war, and you're not so worried about getting, or that really worn out die, or how it looks. They just keep stamping them and pushing.
For all you silver stackers out there, much hasn't changed, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you look at the writing on the wall, we're heading back to having metal being tagged to currency.
Yes, that's what I think. Yep.
It will happen at some point. I mean, I just watched a video the other day of somebody talking about the Chinese who are looking to peg the yen to gold, and they are building what they call the gold corridor, where they're buying up all this gold so that they can trade with Africa and other countries, and so that's why you see metal exploding the way it is right now. Overinflation, overprinting of the dollar and other currencies. And in the end, it goes back to these coins that from the ancient times. Everything comes back down to the metal, because you need metal, you need gold, you need silver. You can't just make it, so.
Yep, exactly.
And so everything's going to fall back to those things because we've been overprinting the dollar so much that it's worthless. It's becoming worthless.
Yep.
Luckily for us, the rest of the currencies in the world aren't very good either. But
yep.
But that being said, you can see that we're going back to things being tagged to metal at some point.
Yep.
So
totally. Yeah, and so along those lines, here we have this Nero coin here, and I just kind of find it interesting when I'm looking back at all these ancient coins. I see, let's see, where is it? Right below that. So this coin here, where you've got the ruler Nicomedes, and on the reverse you have Zeus crowning Nicomedes. So you have a god crowning a man to rule. So definitely, just by your common logic, the man who is ruling is saying, God gave me the power to rule, basically, right?
Sure.
And so with this Nero gold aureus, I'm thinking, so I believe you said it was Titus that helped sack Jerusalem when they still had their temple. And so, I grew up hearing about that being the temple of God. And when it got sacked and they took that wealth out of the temple and went back to Rome, now you have like on this coin, it says Pontifex Maximus, right? In Caesar. And so they're kind of taking that rulership and saying, now I rule. And really, I'm kind of, in my mind, the more I look back into history, we kind of are still under that Roman rule, where now it's kind of transferred to the Pope somewhat, you might say.
Sure.
But we still are kind of under this
Sure.
rulership where you got people looking to take rule the world by force, as it were.
Sure. Yeah, and Neil just asked, as kings change, so did the coinage. Good for dates, comparison to histories, and the reason for that is that before, back in the day when you didn't have social media and newspapers and all kinds of places to show that you were in power, back then the only way you could really prove to the people that you were in power is by putting it on the money. Because ancient money was
newspaper.
It was a newspaper. It was a way. It was propaganda, right? So you put on the coin your, who you conquered and the history and your titles and all those things, so that the people knew who was boss. Essentially, that's why the usurpers, they would start minting coins right away, because they had to pay the soldiers, and so and also they wanted to show that they were ruling, right? And so that's just what you did. You had to start minting coins with your name on it to show that you were in power. And so that was just the way it was done. Now we don't really have to do it as much, right? Now, you might get like a commemorative coin with Trump on it. That's made by people trying to profit off of his name. But you could say like, okay, well, Trump's building this huge ballroom on the White House, and he's going to dedicate it to himself, probably. So that'll be his way of like making his mark on the history of the United States.
Yep.
One way, anyway.
Right.
So, it's, but, back then it was all about the coins. Coins was extremely important. So as soon as and to show how important it was, there was, we're not in ancient times. No, I know. I'm trying to make a correlation. It's not necessarily working, but you get my point. Even emperors that only were in power for three months or a year, Otho and people like that, they have tons of their coins still out there, meaning that they minted so many coins in a short amount of time. It just goes to show how many coins they were actually minting. And if a few percent of all coins ever produced survive, it just gives you the mass amount of numbers that they were actually striking at the time. So, and I go back to, and I don't know if anybody's ever done a study of this, but, all the pharaohs of Egypt, and a lot of the tombs were raided in ancient times, and all the gold and silver was stolen out of there. And the only reason Tutankhamun is famous is because we found his tomb intact, and it was stuffed full of gold and silver, stuffed. Yep. So you can imagine how much gold and silver was in the big pharaohs like Ramses,
right,
and other big ones. I've been to Egypt. It was a long time ago, but walking through Ramses' tomb, it's like huge, and it goes on forever, and
really?
It's empty. And King Tut's is it's like a closet.
Really? Wow.
That's why it went undiscovered for so long. So my guess is a lot of that gold in ancient times from the pharaohs was melted down and they made coins out of it. So at some point. So, I mean, you've got the Macedonians that ran Egypt for 300 years. So there's a good chance that maybe they were sacking those tombs at the time. Who knows? Or they were sacked by the Persians. Who knows?
Right. Yeah.
Melted down, made out of coins, and so some of the Roman gold might have been Egyptian statuary at some point.
Oh man, wouldn't that be that just adds
proof? But you got to imagine it didn't just disappear.
Right.
So it just got reallocated, into other.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, the Spanish were taking all the South American gold and making 8 reals and all these different coins out of it. So they were melting down all the gold they were finding in South America and making coins out of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it's the same thing. So,
Yeah.
it's cool when you think about it. You know, like
Very
all
cool.
the gold and silver that was taken out by Titus that then went to pay for the Colosseum in Rome, they had to be turned into Roman gold and Roman silver, because so all those half shekels and shekels
Yep.
into the tomb, into the temple, had to be melted down and made into something else.
Right.
So, and so it, you know, and or people like during the Bar Kokhba war against the Romans, which is the second war, during the time of Masada, the Jews were actually heating up the dies of the Roman coins and restriking them. So you get the undertype of denarii, Roman denarii, on Jewish coins. And so sometimes you'll actually see the outline of the emperor's head on the coin in the image of the Jewish iconography.
Wow.
So, and again, they were just, it didn't matter that the image was there. They would just like wear it down, melt it, restrike the coin, because it was all about the weight again. And they wanted the coin struck under Jewish rule, not under the previous emperor or the emperors that were there. So, and then here you're looking at coins that have been restruck.
Overstruck. Yeah, you can see imagery of the previous coin underneath.
Yep.
And yeah, these are restrikes or overstrikes. So now, in general, are those sought after more than just a pure strike, or what's in general?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like the one with the kenosis, because that's the labyrinth.
Yeah.
That's a very popular type. Most coins out of Crete were overstruck. They were of poor dies and poor manufacturing. So a lot of the coins of Crete actually come out really crappy. So when you get, so sometimes they're heavily collected for the labyrinth and the history and the mythology and all of that. But at the same time, some of the undertypes, if it's unknown to have happened before, will be highly collectible.
Sure, that's what I was wondering.
Because they're like, oh, they never used that coin before. That's new. That's different.
Rare, yeah. Sure.
So,
very cool.
So that could be really, really cool in that regard.
Yeah. And so I wanted to right quick look at this. I thought
Neil said the history of Egypt is unquestionable because we are not allowed to excavate or do archaeology that is not approved for by Egypt. Yeah, and you know, I mean, they did do it for a long time, and then they call it stealing, that the West stole. But really, what it was is that Egypt was always corrupt, and they were an underdeveloped country that needed money, and corrupt, and so they took whoever was the high bidder at the time. Petrie being one of them. He was a famous Egyptologist from England who had the right to dig in Egypt in the early 1900s. And anything fantastic he found that they considered to be a national treasure went to the museum in Cairo, and he was allowed to take anything else out. But it wasn't stolen. He had the right.
Right.
You know, and if you go back to Egyptian history, the Egyptians had so many bodies laying around in the earth because nothing rots there because there's no humidity. So wood, cloth, bones, it all doesn't disintegrate. It's all stays good forever. And so so they were actually in the 19th century, they were actually using some of the mummy wrappings from the bodies to fuel steam engines because it had bitumen or tar in there, oil in there. And so they were actually burning them up in to run their steam engines. And they were using some of the wrappings which is to actually make newspapers. They were actually recycling it and using it. So if you say, well, it's really important to them now, it's because the values are so much higher than they were back then. Yeah. And so, but most source countries have so much material, and most of the national treasures are there. There are some that are outside of the country, obviously. But it's not that they don't have enough material. And I have to say, and I've always had this approach, that I believe that all ancient coins and artifacts, all our history is for the entire world. It's not for one country, because we're all part of the same cell structure, right?
Indeed.
So and so not everybody can afford to take a plane and go to Egypt, but you can go to the Art Institute or the Field Museum and see works of art from the past. And so, and it makes those cultures live on. It teaches us about history, about acceptance of other cultures. There's all kinds of good that comes by having museums throughout the world with other items from source countries.
From other cultures,
so
yep.
if it was all just kept in the source countries, one, they wouldn't have enough space to put it all, and two, you wouldn't be able to publicize history in such a great way that we're able to do that. And so, and most things aren't necessary national treasures. You could argue that the Parthenon marble should go back to Athens, or that the Rosetta Stone, which is also in the British Museum, should go back to Egypt, because that's the key to the whole Egyptian language.
Yeah.
Hieroglyphics, you know. But you know, England's had it for hundreds of years now, so it gets a little bit more tricky. It's not like they stole it last year.
Sure.
I mean, it's been hundreds of years.
Right.
And when Lord Elgin took the Elgin marbles from the Parthenon, it was run by the Turks and not by the Greeks. And the Turks they were using the Parthenon as an ammunition dump at the time, and it had been bombed several times. And so Lord Elgin wanted to save as much of the Parthenon as he could. So he got okay by the leaders of the country, which was not the Greeks at the time, and got the okay and paid money to actually take them out.
Yep.
And in fact, one of the ships, when he was bringing the stuff back to London, one of the ships sunk.
Yep.
One of the marbles on there, and he actually went down and got it, which I can't even imagine with no technology to be able to go down and grab a piece of marble like that. So it
was a great big chunk, yeah.
It just shows how much care he had in them. And then you could say, well, are they better preserved because Lord Elgin took them and they've been under watch by the British Museum for all this time, and not like covered in acid rain and destroyed through wear and tear from Mother Earth? So they're in much better condition because they've been in a museum for all this time.
Yeah.
So there's so many arguments for
right.
and against who should have things. You know, a lot of the Saudi Arabian country, or a lot of the Middle Eastern countries right now are building museums for Westerners, so that when oil runs out or we change to some other type of fuel, people want to go do tourism there.
Yeah.
And what do you do what do most of us do? If you go to a famous city, you go to the museum and you see works of art from all over the world.
Yep.
So you're not going to necessarily go and just want to see works from Dubai.
Right.
You want to see like works from Egypt and from all over. And
all those ancient cultures, yeah.
Museums, and they don't necessarily follow the same rules that Westerners do. So like when you hear about these laws and regulations that are being put on Americans and Europeans for what we can collect and not collect, and what can move in and out of countries, the Chinese and the Arab Gulf countries don't follow those same rules. And so you're giving an advantage to them because they don't follow the same rules. They don't care. So you're policing one side of it, and it's easier for the Arab countries to get a lot of this material because they've got oil money right now. So if a sheikh decides to go and build a museum, which is the way it was done here in America, it was the way it was done all over Europe. Most museums started because of a collector and gave their collection to the museum.
Right.
Started the museum.
Okay.
And so that's what's happening in the Saudi, in the Arab countries right now. They're building museums from very wealthy oil sheikhs.
Sure.
And they don't care they don't follow rules.
Right.
They don't care what happens.
Right.
So there's all these arguments. My last podcast, I did a whole thing on legalization of the trade and why it makes sense to do it. But unfortunately, we have a lot of corrupt countries where the source countries are at, And so they're, in my opinion, just as much of the problem as the solution.
Right.
So
I thought this was a interesting example of a mint state coin, and I like what you say down here on the bottom of this one. This is an excessively rare coin in exquisite condition. Some of the highest relief points of the hair and wreath are flatly struck because they did not reach the top of the die, a real numismatic treasure. And yeah, it's just a good point. So you're talking like right here on the wreath, you would probably get a bit more design and definition, or on these hair locks where it's all kind of flat right there. That's what you're speaking of, right?
yeah, so the high point of the die is going to wear first, right? So where the eye is the deepest part of the die.
Okay.
That's gonna be one of the last things that's going to wear away, as it's not going to wear away as fast as, say, the high points of the coin, as far as the die goes.
Okay, yeah. And yeah, I just thought that was a great example of it's still mint state, but it just didn't reach the top of the die, and therefore get some of that detail. But
Right.
so it's not that it's worn; it just never was struck fully into the die. I'm running a little bit late on time here with you, but I did want to cover this ancient gold ring. I thought this was pretty fascinating. How in the world is this like an agate in the ring?
It's a stone called carnelian.
Oh wow.
It's a soft stone that's easily carvable, and it's one of the more common stones used by the Greeks and Romans for making intaglios.
Intaglios. What does intaglio mean?
It's a signet ring. You can push that into clay and get an image.
Okay.
Or in their case, they were signing their papers. They would put that into like a type of ink, and then they would press it down onto what they call wasn't ink. It was they call them bullets, a bulla, and basically they were sealing these papers, and they put heated lead, and they would actually then put the signet into it to seal it.
Okay. And that looks like a very rich gold. It looks like a good purity of gold to me.
Yeah, most ancient gold is close to 24.
Okay. Wow. And then that carving is just, I thought it was quite well done. I mean, what a beautiful ring. Do you come across rings this nice very often, or is this a pretty nice one for you?
I come across them. I forgot that sold. I got to send that out.
Oh, really? Okay. I've been eyeballing that thing.
It sold last night.
Oh wow, cool.
So I forgot to print out so thanks for the reminder.
You bet. All right, well, we have surpassed our time, so I suppose I better let you go. I didn't get half.
Those rings could be very valuable. Yeah. You know what I was thinking the other day is, like, if as gold rebounds again, we're getting to a point where we're gonna, like, we just bought a group of Byzantine gold. We bought like 90 pieces of Byzantine gold from a collector in Tennessee, and we had to reprice it all because gold had gone so high.
Yeah.
But the melt value was higher than what we had priced some of the coins. And so, that's when you have these big swings, right? I mean, with gold going down, now it's on its way back up again.
Yeah.
Well,
that's funny, because I asked you kind of in some of our very first sessions, I was like, will it affect the value at all? You're like, no, not really. It'd have to be pretty big swings, and here we are with some pretty big swings. So
yeah, when you get gold up to $4,300 an ounce, it basically made a Byzantine gold coin, no matter what the quality of the strike was, worth over $500 in melt. So, in most Byzantine gold, that's the cheapest ancient gold you can purchase. So if just, a normal Byzantine coin in VF to EF condition might have been worth $450 a year ago. And now you got to price it at $650, $600, $700, just because of the melt value now. So,
yep, that's funny. I was just telling somebody, like, if you want to get ancient gold, you can actually get it pretty close to the value of gold. If you're going to be buying gold, get some ancient. But now we're getting some repricing going on. So I might have lost my window, but
Yep. Well, I mean, it's still cheaper. I mean, Roman gold will always, unless it's a really piss poor quality, most Roman gold goes pretty high. So the melt value really doesn't come into play. The only time it's going to come into play is if but even a really low quality Roman Nero is going to be $2,000 minimum for crappy, which is still going to be above the melt value, so should still be okay. But with Byzantine, you're getting a little bit closer to the melt value.
Yeah,
For sure. And they had a lot of gold, so they produced a lot, and a lot survived. So I think more coins survive than we think. I mean, look at that first video you showed with them underwater, and here they're they're going to be ruined because if they're in salt water, they're going to be corroded away, and have terrible surfaces. River-based coins usually are going to have wear just from the circulation of the water constantly flowing over it. In fact, they call it river patina on bronze coins, because coins that came out of the Tiber, they call them Tiber patina. Is a way of saying it, because as the water is flowing over it, it's taking the surfaces off, and you end up with this like golden brown patina on the coin, and they call that Tiber patina, which is river patina. It didn't necessarily mean it came out of the Tiber, but it means it's a river patina, and that's desirable for some people. They like that patina. They like that color. So the environment of the earth is going to do certain things to coins or to objects, like Roman glass, because it's not annealed at high temperatures. It'll actually break down over time with the minerals in the earth, and it'll get what's called iridescence. You get these frosty colors of rainbow types and all these colors on the thing. And that's actually because the glass is breaking down, not because it's sound. And it has to do with aging of a glass that wasn't annealed at a high enough temperature, and then the minerals that are mixed into it, and you get all these colors. But honestly, it's a breaking down of the glass. It's not actually a good thing necessarily, but people collect it for the color because they love it so much. I once had a piece of Roman glass that was completely frosted all around with all these beautiful colors and stuff, but it would flake all the time, and eventually a hole flaked right into the center of the because the surfaces were just flaking off over time. It just created a hole, and that was it.
Wow.
So
awesome. All right, well, I better let you go, but we'll have to get you back on and dive in a little bit further. I didn't get as far as I wanted, but so it goes. So
and I think I'm going to be taping my 70th episode.
Wow, awesome.
This weekend with Mike. Except I still have to write it. I haven't written it yet, so I might do like a Halloween theme. I've done that every October, so I might just do like a Halloween theme.
There you go.
With ancients. So
there you go.
But we'll see.
Looking forward to it. I love those. I love that.
Yeah, 70. It's crazy. Yeah. So this last one, I always like push advertise them a little bit, to make sure they get out to the people. And this one went viral. It had like over 500,000 views.
Awesome.
Insane. And I didn't do anything different. It just went viral for some reason.
Nice.
I mean, the way I look at it is the more people I can reach, the better chance that ancient coins can keep growing as a collector base.
Yeah.
So that's why I push advertise them a little bit, so that I can get them out there to everybody, because I pick up new collectors all the time that get into ancients from
Awesome.
So to me, it's like whether they buy from me or somebody else, it's just growing our community. So that's really important for the business.
I mean, I actually have probably 4 or 5 people here lately that have been talking to me saying you're starting to suck me into these ancient coins. So it's like, I'm just so fascinated by it. I mean, I love silver and gold as well, but me being into the diamond into the monetary system, and then being able to correlate it with the history and just fascinating. I know. So
I really like surrounding myself with beautiful things. I collect. I have a little painting collection. I have antiquities. I've got coins. I think it's fun to surround yourself with wonderful things.
Yeah.
And to me, they're an investment, but they're not. But it's also like a way to like store wealth over time and get to enjoy it for a while, and then you sell it. You might make money, you might lose money, but you might enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's a great way, whether you're storing silver bars or a beautiful painting on the wall, it's the same thing ultimately.
Yeah, that's what was so cool when I got to talk with your dad there a little bit when I was down visiting you and looking at his paintings and hearing him talk about, well, I had to, not collect all the coins, so I got into these paintings. It's beautiful in there. And I've got several comments from people talking about those paintings as well. So yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
and the thing about art and coins and why I think the market's really healthy right now is because people really want something tangible that they can hold.
I do.
Just like you gold and silver stackers, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We can look at our bank accounts and say we've got X amount of money in the bank, but if that currency continues to devalue or change, can go one way or the other. But your tangible items, they kind of move up in value over time, regardless of what happens with countries and everything else. So it's nice to have that stuff in your portfolio. And I see a lot of ultra wealthy people that have plenty of money, but they want to diversify, and so they diversify into collectibles because it's a good way to store wealth as well. Yep. And it's pretty and it's fun and it's something interesting. It's a hobby. But there's plenty of people have made money doing it.
Oh boy.
Or at least not lost money.
Exactly, right. Yep.
I mean, a lot of people lost money too because they don't do it correctly, and it's just bad luck, right? You might collect an area, like if you were a big stamp collector 30 years ago, you're shit out of luck now because nobody's collecting.
Yeah.
So it's it depends on what's happening with the market that you're in. So I like to collect a lot of different things because you may have one area that's hot over another area and you're still enjoying it and enjoying having it. And then when it's time to sell it, maybe you'll sell it. It's always there for you when you need it. That's
Indeed.
the whole, right. And so I think that's why we're seeing so much money being paid for collectibles, because there's so many people with disposable income right now because of the gap wealth between the ultra wealthy, the oligarchs, if you want to call them, and everybody else.
Yep.
And so the oligarchs of the world, they can keep buying companies, or they can buy art, gold, silver, diamonds, whatever.
Yep.
Them, it doesn't really matter. And you've got a lot of multi-billionaires that are in the ancient market right now, and they're the ones that are none of us can compete with those people, and they're collecting the upper 1% of the quality of items that most of us wouldn't be able to afford anyway, but they're competing against those people. But it all kind of trickles down, right? Yeah. So because it means that maybe somebody who's again, these are all people who most of us are not, but okay, there's a millionaire who can't compete with the billionaire. So then the millionaire is now looking for other coins that he can afford, and that pushes somebody who's below them. And it just keeps on.
Yeah.
It keeps pushing the envelope is what
yep.
it is,
Yep.
And so, and that was my argument with legalization, is that, the smugglers see exactly what all this stuff is selling for. And if you have a heavily pedigreed item that sells for $1 million, the smuggler says, well, I got one. Yeah, I found it yesterday, but I'm going to sell it for $500,000. And I'll sell it to somebody in Saudi Arabia or wherever. It's not like smuggling is going to stop. And in fact, because of the laws and regulations and people and countries trying to cut people from collecting, it's actually created more value. I did a study of the gold Eidmar, and the gold Eidmar with the hole, my dad bought for his client, Barry Fierstein, in 2004 for $120,000, 120,000 Swiss francs. And I bought it for my client in 2022 for 2.4 million. That was a 1,733% increase from 2004 to in 20 years. 1,733%. 53% increase
Wow.
in that time period. And there's other coins that have that same correlation. And so if you think that creating laws and rules against collecting and trying to stop the black market, it hasn't worked. It's actually increased the values.
Right. Yeah.
Because it means the things that are heavily pedigreed, people are paying more money for because they don't want to end up with a looted item.
Sure.
And so it drives the prices. Everything's transparent now, and so everybody sees the prices, and it just creates more smuggling.
Yep.
Not less smuggling.
Sure.
So the country should get off their ass and start to legalize and make money off of what's in the ground, and have metal detectorists do the work for them, where they don't have to pay them, and have people bring that. Because in England they actually have to. When you find something, you have to split it 50-50 with the landowner. Okay, you have to. There's call centers all over Britain that's run through the British Museum. You call one of those call centers when you find something. You're supposed to record the GPS coordinates where you found it. If it happens to be a tomb, they actually bring out the coroner and do a study of it. If the archaeologists decide to do a deeper study of that area, they can. The British Museum offers market value of the item that they found. If they don't want it, they're able to keep it, and they can sell it, split the money, and export it out. So and they now know where they have like a map since 2003 of all the find spots, and it's littered all over England.
Awesome.
You had that in all the source countries. You know exactly where everything was found, how many was found. There'd be no mystery. Everything would be shared. The knowledge would be shared with the archaeologists who want to know what's coming out of the ground. I mean, there's so much advantage for legalization, and it's such a disadvantage to keep it the way it is that I don't think it's sustainable.
Yeah. And did you say that was that Britain? You said that has that system.
Yep.
And is that kind of Britain's the only place that has that system right now?
Britain has it. Israel has it, but Israel tightened up because what happened is during COVID, it might have been before COVID, the guy who started Hobby Lobby built the largest museum in Washington, D.C. It's called the Living Bible Museum.
Yep.
And he went to Israel. He's obviously very Christian nationalist. And he wanted to build a museum to prove that the Bible was word for word real.
Right.
And so he was dealing with one of the biggest antiquity sellers in Israel, who's Arab, and they started shipping out Sumerian tablets and other things that weren't legally exportable because they didn't get a license to do it. And so the first crate went through fine. The second crate got stopped by customs, and it was that they had it labeled as furniture, and it was ancient artifacts. And so the Hobby Lobby guy said, "Oh, I didn't know." He got fined $4 million.
Oh.
And they arrested the families in Israel that did this, and then tried to stop the trade from all antiquities. And then all of the people got up, and because there's a big trade business in Israel. When you go to Israel, you get all these Christians and Jews that go there, and they want to own a piece of history.
Sure.
So go to King David Hotel in Jerusalem, and all these high-end hotels, and they all sell antiquities there, and they way overcharge for them. So like a piece I might sell for like $100, they'll put $1,000 on. But it's like Great America, right? You're there. Right. They call it Israeli fever is what they call it. Sure. And so they get there and they overpay for the stuff. And so they were able to keep the trade going, but it's much more restricted than it was. Germany, they used to be able to send things out very easily, but what was happening is that all of the illicit trade was coming through Turkey and Bulgaria into Germany. And so then they were selling it in auction houses right in Munich after it was being smuggled from Turkey and Bulgaria right into Munich. So the way they stopped that is they said they can't export anything out of Germany that doesn't have a pedigree that's at least 20 years old, I believe is the rule, which meant that anything that was looted recently couldn't come through Germany anymore. And so now the auction houses only can sell pedigreed items over 20 years known out of the earth.
Creating a worse black market.
So
Yeah.
what happens now, and this is the problem with England, why people don't like the treasure rules there, is a lot of stuff's getting smuggled into England and saying, oh, it was found here, and then England.
Yeah.
So it's, that's the problem, right? And I don't know this for a fact, but I know that there's stuff that's been brought to Israel for the same thing, and then exported out of Israel is being found or coming out of Israel. So, the fact is that the more laws you create, there's always going to be somebody who's going to break them.
Yeah.
And so, and I hate to equate it to marijuana in this country, but we fought against it for decades and decades, put tons of people in prison. Some people would say that it was a minority issue, that they were putting, African Americans away in jail because of it. Whatever your argument is, we spent billions of dollars,
right,
whether it was incarcerating people or fighting it, and now we're legalizing it and making billions off of it.
Yep.
And so it's the same thing in a way. You can create all these rules, and even so, like, you would think that, like, in Chicago, like we have, in Colorado and all these places, you have legal marijuana, but they're still selling it on the streets. Why? Because taxes are so high,
right,
to buy this stuff, that people in poor neighborhoods would rather just buy their street marijuana because it's cheaper.
Yep.
So, and you got guys in Michigan who are growing it. And I had a buddy, a coin dealer, who grew it during COVID, and you're allowed 12 plants. He ended up with 18 pounds a pot. 18 pounds a pot. So he sold like 15 pounds illegally to somebody, got tons of cash, and he can smoke the other 4 pounds till he's dead. So, my point is that even through legalization, you'll have some play that will happen, but it'll still be a lot less issue. It creates tourism. Like, there's tons of people metal detectorists that will actually go to England just to do metal detectoring.
Sure.
Go and look for treasure.
You bet.
So it's fun. So it creates tourism. There's all kinds of positives that can come out. The argument also is that coins are not found on sites. They're found on trade routes. So when they actually find a hoard of coins, it's not disturbing anything. There's nothing else there, because that was the bank. That's the bank vault, right? Is burying it right in its spot out in the field. So when they find it, it's just that one find. That's it. There's nothing else there to find. There's nothing else to excavate. So that's not always the case, but in many cases it is. So that's always been also the argument why coin shouldn't be on restrictions and things like that, because it's not a site. A lot of sites have been destroyed by smugglers because they disturb them, right, and destroy them. And that's a problem. I understand that part of it. But there's a lot of coins that are found on non-site spots that really don't disturb anything. And they're not even indigenous to those regions, right?
Right.
So, because coins were meant to travel. So coins they could be found in Turkey, they could be found in Greece, they could be all over the place. They could be from all different cities. Is it supposed to go back to the city that manufactured it just because that's where they manufactured or minted the coin? They gave that coin up thousands of years ago. They didn't expect it to come back.
Right.
So in any case.
Fascinating. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't legalize it,
they'll keep doing what they're doing until they realize that they're better off joining the legalization instead of
making money off of it.
Letting people make money off of it. You want to have scumbags continue to make money off of it, or do you want to legalize it and make money off of it? Have money for museums and other things. Be
able to document where you're finding it. Yep.
I mean, we hear about these hoards that are found in Turkey, like, there's a hoard of Athens coins. We think it's 30,000 coins, but it could be as much as 70,000 coins. Nobody knows. Nobody will really know. And, if you go back to the 1930s and 40s and 50s and even 60s, there's books. We have a whole series called Coin Hoards, where it actually talks about all the hoards that are found and where they were found and how many coins were found in each hoard.
Wow.
They were all documented. And none of that's happening now because of the laws.
Ridiculous.
So, anyway.
Crazy. All right, Aaron. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to the next one. Look forward to your next podcast coming up. I'll keep my eye out for that. So,
yeah. Don't Don't be a doofus.
All right, cool. You got a doofus purchase on this next one?
I don't know. I'll look and see. I mean, the auctions are really happening now. I'm actually going to NAC. I leave a week from Sunday to go to the NAC sale. So
Okay.
hopefully I'll see some stuff there. We'll see. Thanks, Space Miner. Thanks, everybody who made nice comments. Appreciate it. And thank you as well. Appreciate it.
For sure.
All right,
Look
take
forward
care.
to having you back. All right,
Yep.
Thanks, Aaron.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye. All right, thanks everybody out there in chat. Appreciate you hanging out with us and bringing your questions. Drop if I missed a question that you really wanted to ask and I didn't see it, drop it in the comment section down below, and I will try to get it next time I talk to him. And with that, we will catch you all on the next one. Thanks, guys.